You're listening to The Bounding Box, where we talk about web development, geo development, and everything in between. All right, so welcome to The Bounding Box, and today I'm joined by my good buddy here, Jan Cabone. Jan, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and what's your problem.
Hey Rene, thanks for having me. Yes, so Rene and I are working together like for a long time. So me and Kevin, I'm working the JavaScript API team. I'm working at Esri for 10 years now. JavaScript API team for like 8 or 9 years. Yeah, so I'm one of the lead dev there on the project. I'm working a lot on the glue code. Work on layers, and then I work a lot also with other teams that want to bring their functionality to the JavaScript API. I guess this is what I do these days. Yeah, lots of JavaScript, lots of TypeScript.
It's been 10 years already? Wow.
Yes, man. 10 years. Yeah, it's been a while.
So you started on the Flex team, right? And with 3x was still a thing for JavaScript API, and you came in and just said we're going to do 4x now.
Yes. So I started, I discovered JS when I was in France. I was doing Flash development. I had no idea what JS was, and so I joined a project where it was about mapping, and then at the time, you could add a map in a Flex application, like in 3 lines of code. Blew my mind. I found about your blog at the time, because you were also like blogging about Flex at the time. And so then after I joined Esri, I joined Esri right after to work on the Flex team right after Adobe announced that they would deprecate Flex. So I joined the team, and I was like already working on a technology that was about to be obsolete. So there was an opportunity to work on the JavaScript team at some point when they wanted to, integrate 3D into it. And so jump ship at that time, and it was great.
Nice. And that's a big thing too. You do a lot of work with the 3D team in Zurich, and make sure that with them that all the APIs are consistent across, because there might be a need to do something in 3D, but we want to make sure that that still works in 2D. So you kind of manage all that stuff as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a lot of people, they have been building mapping applications for a long time with Esri or other libraries. So they are familiar with how to build an app with a map, with a 2D map. So they are familiar with concept of extent and so on. But then lots of these concepts that don't apply in 3D. So, it's interesting for them, like, oh, okay, so I have this 2D app, and then, maybe I want to show my users, oh, maybe we can show the same data in 3D. And so what is great is that our API is the same, like whether you work in 2D or 3D, you have like new concepts for 3D, but then you can reuse like all your knowledge that you have from building 2D maps. So it's pretty powerful concept.
So working on the API for as long as you have, I mean, what is the hardest part of building and maintaining a mapping library, something that is so visual and does so much?
So when that new API, when we started it, we forked the previous version, and then it was like it was code written long time ago, and then we need to keep it relevant, and then we release. So we have to modernize this code over time, and we release 4 times a year. So we can't go into a submarine like for 6 months a year and then like rewrite everything and bring it, do something new. So we had to, progressively find, okay, for this release, we are going to modernize this part. And modernizing meaning like we migrated all the code base to TypeScript. So it was progressive. The API was using Dojo a lot internally. So we removed that because with TypeScript and removing Dojo, we were able now to deliver ES modules to the developers. So that was like the most challenging. It's like over time, like how can you try to divide the work into little pieces that we can ship every 3 months.
And there was all kinds of cool stuff that happened there too, like the map, all the features and stuff used to be drawn in SVG, and the tiles were just like raster tiles, stuff like that. That at some point, everything moved to WebGL, right? So we can draw everything on a single canvas and much more performant. And we're able to draw like a million, like, well, okay, not a million, a few 100,000 points on the map, right?
No, I think you can say a million.
Okay,
it depends on the machine, right?
Yeah, but, exactly.
Yeah, so that was another part of this modernization. Is like, how can we, 3D, of course, was always WebGL, but then the 2D engine was using the DOM and SVG. And so, of course, like if you want to, bring in new features to the API, like to users, like, okay, you need to draw faster, take less time. So WebGL was a, great choice. But then, we had to release over time, progressively, the new engine. So we started with vector tiles, and then feature layers, and then the raster tiles, and then progressively migrate all this rendering. And then once all the layers were rendering in a WebGL context, we managed to have just one WebGL canvas, and then render all the layers inside that canvas. And then since then, after we brought like layer effects and blend modes and the new flow visualization for raster data and so on. So it's like, capabilities that only WebGL can provide to us. So yeah, it's like.
Nice. And then part of that too, you actually helped implement the worker framework that we use, right? So like people don't know, like when you use web workers, pretty much just like post message and you can listen for responses, come back, stuff like that. And that wasn't really like up to snuff for what was needed in the API. So you built this whole like asynchronous framework for it, right?
Yeah. So when you run your feature layer in the JavaScript API, the whole data fetching and processing of the data happens in a worker. So the worker really, it's like those light thread that can do a lot of work and that they don't block the UI. So the user can still pan, it doesn't block, there is no stutter. But then on the background, you have this worker that will fetch like new features and then process those features. Like it needs to triangulate the polygons, it needs to generate triangles for the lines. It's very complicated, very sophisticated code from our WebGL team, and evaluate, I don't know, like what is the color of each polygon. So there is a lot happening, and the worker can do as much as work as it needs, and it doesn't block the main thread. So that's super powerful. So we had to. Problem of the worker framework is that there are these discrepancies between the web browser, and then also the communication happens with messages. There is no promises. So we wrap the workers inside a promise-based framework. So you can, just invoke a function on the other thread, and then the other thread can respond. And you, from the main thread, you use just promises like any other async API.
Nice. Yeah, it works really great. And users could actually, if they wanted to, could take advantage of that. They could build their own custom workers. It does involve them doing like a special build locally with the npm package and stuff. But I think we have a sample of that on GitHub showing how to do that, which is pretty cool. So people can get down with that. And coming from Flex, and I've heard you say before, like we can do stuff today, barely things we're able to do in Flash like years ago. We're catching up, and we've probably caught up at this point. But what were some of the hard things maybe a few years ago that you think are just easier to do today for like new developers jumping in?
Yeah, I think, like when we migrated to JavaScript, a lot of our developer community was in the same case. So they keep using the Flex API, but then they knew that they had to migrate to JavaScript. And so the question that we had at the time was like, what IDE do you use? Like, because with Flex, you had everything. You had the auto completion. You had like, you had a single build tool. It was like it's one package, like super easy to develop in. And now you arrive in JavaScript, and you have to figure like so many different package management, or the different build tools, and build tools that were valid 5 years ago are dead today, and you have to keep it fresh, I guess. And then same, like the IDE at the time when I started JavaScript, I was developing in, there was no Notepad++, and then
Yeah.
I was developing in Chrome DevTools directly, because you can link the files to your file
That's true. I
system.
forgot
So it
about
was
that.
yeah, it was super convenient. Like, you would write, and then you would be able to place your breakpoint, just reload the page, and then it was like refreshing. And then so super handy. But today you have Visual Studio Code. There is IntelliJ in there, IDEs that are super powerful. That offers like a big comfort for developers. So I would say that TypeScript also got really, for us, really helped us, because we have like so many files and so many lines of code like that. Now we can do massive refactoring, and at least that massive refactoring, and keep your code actually like working. Of course, we still need to have our test running on the side, but still massive help to have TypeScript to do that.
I think that's something maybe
And
users don't realize. I know you've done the stats on this, but I can't remember. We have a couple of thousand modules, files in the API, and we have probably 2 to 3 times as many. Well, okay, maybe twice as many tests to run for everything, right?
No, it was interesting. Like, I built this tool to count the number of lines of TypeScript and JavaScript, so that we could see on the graph like how much we were converting per release. But by the end, when we finished the migration, we were around 500,000 lines of code just for the API.
It's nuts.
But after that,
I think people get wild about that a lot, because it's a pretty large API. There's a lot that it can do, a lot of features and everything. Really cool stuff.
Yes. And there are so many new features that are in the work. It's just, it never stops.
Well, the platform keeps growing, right? And at the end of the day, really, the whole ArcGIS Online runs on the JavaScript API. I mean, that is like, so if something goes, if we happen to break something on the nightly build or whatever, you hear about it right away from someone that's using those nightly builds, and we get those like messages like, oh, what happened here?
Yes. No, it's great. Like, of course, like there was some latency. A lot of project internal at Esri were developed. User applications that were developed on top of 3x. So all these applications are migrating to 4x, and maybe most of them are today. But so we have, like, even at Esri, a lot of developers now that are on top of the API, and so we get like lots of feedback. It's really cool. And same from users.
Yeah, exactly, because we catch a lot of stuff before it goes out to users and stuff like that. So that's really helpful for everybody across the board.
Yeah.
Now, I know one of your passions is cooking, Jan, and you make some great food. I've had your food; it's amazing. What is your favorite dish to make? Like, what do you enjoy to cook?
Yeah, it's because I like it, and for my own survival, my wife doesn't cook, so it's just like I need to cook. No, I really love doing like anything that takes time. Like, I love any stews, beef or pork or whatever. The other day I did pho, so soup, and it takes quite some time. And I love also doing barbecue, American barbecue, smoking, just
It's great stuff, man.
It's my jam. Yes. Well, right now it's too hot. It
is, right? I tried to like grill the other day, and I was out there for like a minute just getting the coals ready. I was like, you know what? It's okay. I'm gonna go inside and do it on the stove. It's easier. My air conditioning.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I want to be respectful of your time here, but I do want to ask if you have any tips and tricks or anything you want to let users know at all.
Yeah, I mean, it applies to us a lot when you work on the library, but it's like to always think about, your users. So my users are developers. So I'm always thinking about how the developer will use my code or our code, how they will use our feature. Do they need that feature, or maybe they need something else? Is it really what they have been asking? Is it really what they want? So sometimes we have to dig a little bit more. And then also, how do they find about like this new feature that you added? Like, is it documented? Is the documentation good enough? Do you have like examples? And now, like, for example, us, like the team, we are doing now a live stream on YouTube, and we have like lots of blog posts coming out. Like, try to just like make people aware of what we do, because like sometimes, you don't follow and there are so many new features, it just like goes into the crack and you don't know.
Yeah, I'm always
So
surprised sometimes. Someone asks me a question about something like, oh, well, we have that here. And it's like, what? I had no idea that was there. It's like, yeah, come on. It's awesome. It's right there. Documented too. It's easy to use.
Yeah. So it's not just like, doing the code is just part of it. It's also like everything that goes with it, like the documentation, the communication, the marketing about a particular feature.
Getting samples in there and stuff. It's great. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jan. I appreciate it. I'll be hitting you up later on. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Rene. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Boundary Box today. Please subscribe for more content.